I'm Dave Tosch, the Executive Director of the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center, and today I'm with Bonita McClain. Bonita was our very first Executive Director at this location back in 1993. She did a whole lot before they opened the center, but she had her hands full once they did open the center. So on November the 11th, 1993, they had their official ceremony of opening the senior center. Bonita was present for that. And all I can think about is what would it be like coming into this building and having all these seniors here and trying to figure out how to make all this work. And I believe she had some real challenges on her hands. So I think maybe Earl Tilley handed her the keys and said, Bonita, go figure it out. And she did an extremely good job over a period of a couple years while she was the executive director. And I'm going to have her speak about that a little bit in terms of what it was like walking in here and getting things moving along. Bonita?
Thank you, Dave. Well, I started showing the center off when it was just nothing here, no walls, no anything, just a floor. And another lady and I took people around and showed them what we thought was going to be each room. And that was before we opened. I don't know, getting the keys and starting a place like this, the good news was that I had the seniors from the old building. They were down by the Y, and they already were organized, and they just had their committees, and they knew what they wanted, and they were so excited. They were really happy to be getting at it. And so when we opened, I think we even used our computer from home, because, you know, you go into your office and nothing there. And they wanted me to be in the big office to start out with. That was the plan. And then I started in. I thought that I ought to be more private. It was open and there was about 4 desks in there. And it just seemed like I ought to have a place that I could close the door, which I'm really glad I had. A lot of things are kind of private and things. So I got them to let me move across the hall. And Dave is still using that room. It works out pretty well. But I had 2 helpers when I started out, a bookkeeper and another lady that was a secretary, and she did so much work, and so did the bookkeeper. And then I hired an administrative assistant after I got in here. But just trying to set up the rooms. Of course, the main thing, we needed money all the time. That's always a thing about a place like this. And the board agreed that we needed to try to rent out some of the rooms to make money that way. We used some of the rooms for pool. The men were wanting a certain room, and they wanted a certain situation with their pool playing, and they had a lot of their own ideas. So it was good that I had them, and yet I had to be kind of careful. I didn't really want to step on any of them. They were already organized, and they had a president, and but I was able to work with them. I'd been on the board before I got the director's job, and knew a lot of them before that, and I think that's probably why I got the job. We got along good, and they let me in even though I'd been a secretary for a lot of years. And I was coming up from Olympia when we were doing some of the planning. My husband was a legislator, and I was coming up to some of the meetings. But a lot of people volunteered. The town really wanted to help us. They just were eager to do anything and everything. I had different service clubs offer to come and set up. About the biggest problem that I always had was setting up the dining room and taking it down and things for different occasions, because I had a bunch of seniors and they were not able to do it. And I don't know, it just seemed like we wanted to have as many functions as we could. One of the ladies came into my office one day that loved bingo, and she was a big bingo player, and she said, if you're going to start bingo, you need to do it professionally or they won't come. They meaning kind of the bingo players in town. And so we did. We hired a caller, and let's see, we had, I think about 3 people that we hired. Yeah, a professional caller, an assistant manager, and a pull tab manager, and we paid them. They were experts, and she helped me get them. And it worked out wonderfully. The people started to come, and there's just a lot of people that love bingo, and they still do it. We got the board up there and had some good times, and they would come early and set up and be ready to go when it started. I had a wonderful cook. I was really lucky. And so we decided we would have Sunday brunches. And it was just wonderful. She was such a wonderful cook, and she had a helper or two, and then a lot of it was mostly volunteers. Everybody was so good to try to help any way they could. And we were very successful with those brunches for a while. I forget how long we ran them, maybe a year or so, but they were an awful lot of work, and it was an extra day and all that. The cook worked for, we had Prospector Pies brought the meals in. We didn't have the contract for the meals at that time. They brought them up every day. And then just as I was leaving in '93, we were getting the contract to do the meals ourselves. And so that was just a whole new thing. But I had wished I had a full-time janitor or someone around. If there's any problems, there's not that many people around. But I loved it. I loved the people. I had lots of them come in and want to talk, and I kind of left my door open almost all the time. Once in a while I had to have a few minutes, but we began to just add things. There was a certain amount of things they brought with them, and now, my goodness, they have anything that you can name the center has anymore.
I was going to ask you a little more about how you were able to raise enough money to pay the bills. I know that the city wasn't able to really help out a whole lot, although I think they did a few favors for you. But the thrift store now, today, is our primary source of income by a wide margin. And of course, it takes up a lot more space now than it did when you got here. But I believe that you had a small thrift store the day you opened. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you managed that?
It wasn't when we first opened, but we had a man that had been, I think he'd worked for Woolworths or one of those stores as a manager, and he volunteered to help start this, always looking for money. The city gave us some money and the county gave us some, not very much, and they were just in the process of cutting that off about the time I left. So then where does the money come from? And renting out the rooms helped, and that kind of thing. So we just took one of the rooms in the back, and he started putting it together for us. He and his wife just worked night and day. He was not in very good health, but he held up, and she was in the back washing and ironing, and just was amazing all they did. There was another couple then, good friends, that helped them. And when I left, we just had the one room that we were doing. Now, my goodness, we did good. People came, but trying to set up how to work it and when to be open and all that took a little doing.
Yeah, I know that you were actually renting several of the suites on the side of the building to generate income.
Yes.
And the way I look at it is well, we've kind of reconfigured things. We don't have any more suites being rented. In fact, we're using those rooms for activities now, which is nice. But obviously the thrift store has expanded into some of those other areas. So, the building configuration, I suppose, has changed over the years. I think we've done the right thing. We have not expanded the thrift store since I've been here necessarily, but we're utilizing our space, I think, the best we can. Everybody wants a bigger building now, I don't know when that'll ever happen, but
yeah, I know, or a separate building for the thrift.
Yeah.
We looked at neighbor's house. There was one that came for sale while I was here, and we talked about it with the board, but it wasn't in the right location really, and we just didn't have the money. Even though we had so much help, we even had tap dancing out on the dance floor, which I took part in, and we gave a couple of little recitals. Everybody loved it. But then they asked us to not do that anymore. This was after I left. We were too hard on the floor. And you know, tap dancing, you'd like to hear the noise. That's all part of it. But we just tried to get everything going that we could think of, and now they've just added many more things. But
you recall what some of your larger fundraising events were back then, other than bingo and some of the ongoing things? Any special events?
Well, I don't know that I was trying to think about that too. These brunches, we had dances. We had quite a few dances. The 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, I think you still do that.
We still do the 2 o'clock on
Came up
Tuesday.
from the old center,
Yeah.
and they wanted to do that again, and loved it. We started right out with that, and had the lunches and that kind of thing. And a lot of different groups wanted me to come and speak and kind of tell like how it was going, and I did a lot of that. I was on a state committee, and I can't remember other big fundraisers that we had. Nowadays they have quite a few things, a craft fair and crab feed and that are good. But now you don't do anything, huh?
Well, at this point in time with COVID, no, we're not able to do any of that. But I will say this, that I'm reaping the benefits of all of the things that my predecessors did, especially you, because you were the first one. We have somehow figured it out in terms of paying all of our bills and taking care of the building, which is now 27 years old, which we've done quite a bit. We replaced the roof, and we've done a lot of other things. And we're going to have to paint it here pretty soon too, which is, quite a bit of expenditure. But the bottom line is we are independent. We make our own decisions. That's the way it was organized originally, and we're organized the very same way right today. And it's nice to be independent.
Yes.
Did you have a lot of help from outsiders early on, or did you?
Oh, did I ever? My husband a lot. We were wheat ranchers and lived at Mansfield, and I moved down. We had a little rental house, but my husband came down a lot, and he did a lot of the outside yard stuff, the water and trying to make all that work. When you're starting out and everything's bare, it's like, where does everything go? Yes, and the volunteers were great, but a lot of them were up in years, They really couldn't do very much. I had a certain amount of people wanting different things, but I was able to work with them, and I just thoroughly loved them. It was a wonderful time for me.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a challenge for the senior center, because the people that are frequenting, our members, coming here all the time, are older and physically not able to do a lot of things anymore. And so we have to kind of get creative when we look for volunteers and bringing in groups from service clubs or businesses. I know with our crab feed, Wells Fargo Bank, they provide about a dozen young people, to help us out, serve the meal and all that, which is really critical. And so
we had that too. We had a volunteers lunch once a year, and we had service clubs, and they were just awfully good to come and do everything they could. It was, they were excited about it. Their parents, I suppose, a lot of them were in it.
Yeah, I think that you're right, though. With any special fundraiser that we have here, when we're moving the furniture, it's always a challenge. And like I say, we have to get somewhat creative and plead with some of the folks to help us out.
And in a hurry sometimes. You're taking, like when you have your fair, you have the whole place full and trying to get it back to normal then.
Yep. Well, again, we're in the 2020 year of COVID, and we're closed right now. Obviously, we'll be reopened and up and running here, hopefully not too far away. And so we're not able to do a lot of things we're talking about, but it is amazing how many of these events have gone on for years and years and years. And I've always believed that if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, just improve on it.
You've done a great job. Just so many things going on out here. People just love it.
You did mention you had pull tabs at one time. I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah. I think we still had them when I left, but they took them down. I don't remember why. That was another popular thing.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, you had to get creative and figure out how to pay all the bills. And
yes, and trying to figure out what to do with different rooms. We had a big group of quilters and people that did all of the craft things, and they were in this front room in here where I think you use it for different, yeah. Computer club meets in there and different things, but they had that whole room and they were real active. And I didn't have any of the things in the hall. You've just had to add. That was where we put the Christmas tree, where the desk is, and anyway, just kept kind of filling it up.
Yeah, it's interesting because every year our big issue is where to put the Christmas tree, because everything in here is being used, and so many different events. You know, one event like lunch, they're using a couple tables where the Christmas tree normally is, and then we have to move them around. But that's okay. It's a great place to congregate and socialize.
I had a beautiful one year, Dave. It was just beautiful. It was a great big one, and it got so dry. All the needles were falling off. It began to be kind of a fire hazard, but it was so pretty. But
that's another thing that I've noticed over the years. We've always had someone here that is very creative as a decorator, and that's nice to have that talent.
Yes, it
is.
But
we have the front window there as you come in, and that's always looks real well. And then during the holiday season, the place looks really nice. And
Very
a lot of
pretty,
volunteers pitching in on all that.
It takes an army, doesn't it? To, and then you want to make it not too hard on them. I mean, you don't want to work them too hard. They're older, and which I am now.
Yeah, you know, we have what we call we have different names for it, but I call it the war room upstairs, you know, the attic. I don't know if that attic was built that way or not to store things.
It was. Yeah. It was there when we started.
And so that's where a lot of all this stuff's put together. Glue guns and all kinds of things up there.
Well, and you have buildings outside too to store, don't you?
Well, for the thrift store.
For the thrift store.
Seasonal items go outside. And I'll just make mention of this, that every year we have one of those large containers is full of Christmas and holiday items. Sure. And we bring all that in for the month of November and December to raise additional money. It's become extremely popular in the community.
Plus more that you get for, you get more new stuff.
Yeah. And this year we're not going to have the craft fair, which was always the weekend that we opened that Christmas room. So now we're having to get creative as to how we're going to set that room up where people can come out and purchase those items. And we're working on that right now, as a matter of fact. But we'll figure it out. And
well, it's a really popular time to come out, and a lot of people have things they don't need anymore, and the people in the thrift store, I must say, are really kind and nice. They help you bring things in if you need, and I think it's just well run, and they're always asking for more things, which always amazes me because I know they get a lot, and I get quite a bit from me.
Yeah. Well, the community has done a marvelous job in supporting us with donations for that thrift store. And when it's the seniors that are doing it, it's quality.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that store, I mean, our inventory is excellent compared to other thrift stores because of the seniors donating. And during COVID, you know, we've had a lot of people that are cleaning out their homes and their closets. And so we've been somewhat inundated with donations. But you know what? If you're going to have an issue or a problem, that's one to have. You know, too much is better than not enough.
And when they first were talking about coming out here, they thought it was going to be too far. They had been downtown by the Y, and people just didn't think they could get out here. But that part is it just seems like part of the town now, doesn't it?
It does. And Link has been a huge, huge asset.
Yeah.
I mean,
getting people here in a way. And
yeah, we used to have some of our own transportation. I don't know when you started out if you had a bus or anything originally.
We did. They were just beginning to take some trips around, but nothing like you do now.
Yeah.
You do big trips. And, and I've heard good things about them, talked to people that have taken them. And
yeah. Well, it's another one of our big fundraisers, doing our trips, and we do a lot of local ones, but I think there was a period of time where we did have our own buses, and and that kind of helped.
I knew that.
But with Link, it's a marvelous asset to have in the community because seniors can come from their residence right to here.
Yeah.
They might make a few stops on the way, but Link Plus is really something that is special for the seniors.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think everybody is just really in awe of is our mural that we have here. And it's been here for quite a few years. I know it was painted after you left, but can you remember what was on that wall before the mural? You want to talk about that a little bit?
I sure do. It was a metal thing that Walter Graham had made, and it was in pieces. I forget what all was on it. It covered the whole wall, and he was such a well-known man in Wenatchee and had done so many great things, and we just felt we wanted to put up what he offered. And there wasn't anything on the wall at that time, and it was quite a job to get it up to. One of the seniors helped. I was up on the ladder a few times. I think one of my arms has never been the same, trying to hold the stuff up and get it nailed up right and proper. It was up there for quite a few years, but then someone took it down, not me. It was still up when I left, but it was a great big
piece of art.
Quite outstanding.
Well, there were several pieces to it.
Yes, there was quite a few pieces.
But I know the first time I walked into the building, I was really impressed with the mural. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but just recently we repainted the social hall and we put a border up around the mural, and I think it looks really nice that way.
Looks like a picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I like it a lot. It's beautiful.
And just to talk a little bit about Walter Graham's artwork, I should say, that was taken down and given to the PUD, and I believe they hung that over at the Rocky Reach Dam.
Oh, did they?
And a couple of years ago, I got a phone call from them saying that they were going to redecorate,
taking it down,
and they seemed to remember where it came from. And so we took it back, and I had it sitting in a room trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it takes up a lot of space if we were to hang it.
It does, and it's heavy. And
And so we finally came up with the idea of reaching out to one of his descendants, because he's passed away. And so his daughter came and picked it up.
She did.
She has it in her possession now.
Oh, that's
so you
wonderful.
know, you hate to part with stuff and all that, but we only have so much space.
Well, and it had been up quite a few years, so it had seen its day. It seemed like you needed something different and new.
Yeah. Well, our plan is to preserve this this artwork that we have now. This mural is absolutely beautiful.
Who did this? A group or?
His last name was Fisher. I'm not sure too much about him. He was an artist in town.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I know who you mean. I think I went to one of his shows when he left town then, and I believe he's passed away now.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
But he did that. Oh, yeah, wonderful.
And it depicts the four seasons, which we are famous for here in the valley, and it's
nice to have somebody local do things.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, when they see the name up there, they recognize that name. That's important. I think that's another neat thing about our valley is all the connections and all the families, and you get to talking to somebody, and somebody knows somebody, and that's another way of getting a lot of help. You know,
there just wasn't anybody that was against the center. You know, just people of all ages and every group and anything that you wanted, they'd come and help you with. If they could, they'd help finance it or bring some food or whatever you needed. The whole town was just really excited, and I feel real proud that it's such a wonderful place now for so many people. And
I think
I think it's one of the best.
Well,
I visited several other centers when I was director, and this one was a good one.
Yeah, I have visited quite a few on the west side of the mountains in particular. I'm a part of the state board of the association. The state association, and I'm a board member, and I've gotten to see quite a few of the other centers, and we have a really nice facility.
Ours is so nice and big and like new.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it that way. So it's in good shape. I wanted to thank you also for the help you provided me when I first got here. I got here, I think it was in July of, and I know the year was 2013. And I saw where our 20th anniversary date was coming up, which was November the 11th of that year. And so I said, well, who do I talk to? And they said, well, there's two people, Bonita McClain and Earl Tilley. And so I remember you coming down, and we shared a lot of stories and all that. But you spent a couple months, I think, working on that program, which turned out to be really nice. But it wasn't without a few issues and challenges in that we couldn't get the projector to work, and you had to do an impromptu talk, with your notes. But it all worked out great, and I think over the years we've done a lot of things that way.
I do too. We had some good speakers and things. Now an awful lot of the original people have passed and that kind of thing, but it was really some good people that were involved in it all.
Well, I remember we had Carl Campbell here that day. We had Dr. Bill Stewart, the former president of the college, was here that day, and the primary fundraiser.
Yes.
So there were still,
yeah,
there's still quite a few folks that were able to come that day, and I thought it was very nice to recognize them.
The crew that we had, the builder and all the different ones that worked on it, were great to work with too. I was kind of on board during a lot of that, and it just seemed like everything went real smooth. So I was happy. I was lucky because it was a good job.
Yeah. Well, and then you helped me on the 25th anniversary, which we made it into even a bigger production. And although I don't think we had as many bugs that time around, we got most of that ironed out.
I think everything was ironed out for that. And we still had some good speakers. There was people around that we got, some of the people that helped build it. And
absolutely.
It was
but I guess
Old Home Week.
There you go, and that's how I look at this place. But I just want to thank you so much for what you've done for us over the years, not only being the first executive director, but whenever I needed some history or some background information or a name, you always were able to come through for me. And that's important to have that kind of continuity, I think.
Thank you, Dave.
It's hard to do.
I know it is. It's worked out really well. We've had a good relationship, and I've been happy to help whenever I could.
Thank you so much, Bonita.
You're welcome.
Yep.